Hello and Merry Christmas to all you FPL managers. So today's video is a little bit different as I'll be looking over game week 19, 20 and 21. As you know, the festive period is packed full of games and 3 game weeks take place over just 1 week. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to create 3 separate game week videos during this period, not because I've got time off with my family, but in fact for me it's the opposite. Out in Taiwan there are 0 Christmas vacation days, and actually we're having to work an extra Saturday this week just to get an extra 1 day off for New Year. So I'm basically working 6 days. I've got today off, and then I'm working 5 days over Christmas, and then I get New Year's Day and the day after off, and that is it. Anyway, enough of that. Let's look at today's video where I'll be giving you 3 weeks worth of predictions and which players I think will be hot or not over the Christmas and New Year period. Before we look at the future 3 game weeks, let's quickly recap a crazy game week 18 where I drew a blank on all 3 of my predictions. Aubameyang was more of a tongue-in-cheek suggestion as he was my main striker, and players I have in my side tend to do quite poorly, but the Arsenal man scored twice against Burnley and picked up 13 points. Sterling looked a sure thing to bag points against Palace at home, but Roy Hodgson's men pulled off one of the upsets of the season, beating City 3-2 in their own backyard. Finally, one of the most boring encounters this season saw Rondon also draw a blank at home to Fulham, who finally kept a clean sheet. Overall, it was a strange game week for most of the top players, as Chelsea also suffered a surprise defeat at home to Leicester. As for my Game Week 19 transfers, I've swapped Trippier for Digne and Rondon for Rashford with 1.1 million still left in the bank. I'll be using my bench boost this week to claw back those -4 points, but I've also used it because my whole squad, not including our keeper Hamer, faced quite a favourable game week. I had my eye on swapping Martial for Mane originally, but I'm going to wait out the festive period, perhaps making just 1 or 2 transfers, but trying not to lose any points due to transfer hits over the next 3 weeks, since rotation risks are at their highest during this time of the season, and I am trying not to waste any transfers or money. Now let's take a look towards the next 3 game weeks and who to avoid, pick and take a risk on. For this video I'll be selecting 3 players for each category, and these players are ones who I feel are good not just for 1 or 2 games, but for all 3. So let's see who to pick or miss over the festive period. So on the screen now you can see the fixture difficulty ranking over the next 3 game weeks, and straight away Chelsea, Manchester United, Spurs, Everton and West Ham catch my eye in terms of an easy run of fixtures. There are also teams that perhaps have a good 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 3 fixtures looking quite good, like Man City or Arsenal, but the teams mentioned earlier have a full 3 out of 3 sweep. So let's start with 3 players to pick over the next 3 game weeks. So first off, I'm going to say Paul Pogba. This isn't me jumping on the hype train after the Cardiff City game. I think most people believe he is a top talent that was shackled under Jose Mourinho's reign, and Solskjaer seems to be keen to set him free. He's even said in the past before that he wants to build a team around Pogba. Pogba gave a top performance against Cardiff with a whopping 3 assists in the 1 game week alone, as well as a nice 3 fixture game list for United. Pogba is a steal at 7.8 million, and he slots nicely into the differential bracket, so I would say Pogba would be a good choice over Christmas. My second player to pick is going to be Felipe Anderson, a popular FPL player this year. West Ham will want to go back to winning ways following a disappointing 2-0 loss at home to Watford, and they will be facing Southampton, Burnley and Brighton over the next few game weeks, and I'd back the Brazilian to get a few points over Christmas whilst facing these leaky defences. Also, with the rumoured early return of Arnautovic, I can see an increase in the possibility for assists as well if the Austrian were to make an incredible early return during these next few game weeks. Last but not least, my player to pick for game weeks 19 through to 21 is Eden Hazard. Not only has the Chelsea man been in top form for most of the season, he's currently being used down the middle as a central striker slash false 9. Whether this lasts or not is yet to be seen, but if he's down the middle or on the wing, I would be expecting Hazard to grab a good haul of points against Watford, Palace and Southampton. The Blues suffered a setback at home to Leicester City this weekend, so I don't see Sarri resting Hazard a lot over the 3 game weeks if he wants to keep pressure on Liverpool and Manchester City. A couple of honourable mentions though before I move on, who I might have also put into this category, would have been Harry Kane and Richarlison. However, Spurs and Everton have a brutal fixture setup, with the two sides only getting 6 days rest over the 3 game weeks, and I didn't suggest them just purely down to their potential rotation risk. So if you want to take a risk on those players, they are not a bad option either. Of course, almost every player is at risk over the busy Christmas period, but with such a low amount of rest days given to these two teams, I'd be surprised to see if Everton and Spurs play all their top players for 90 minutes for all 3 of the games. Moving on to the 3 players to avoid over the next 3 game weeks, and first up is Robertson at Liverpool. Whilst Liverpool are looking strong this season with the most clean sheets and they have the most rest days of any of the Premier League sides, the Scousers have a tough Christmas fixture setup, and I can see Robertson being pegged back and playing more defensively against Arsenal and Manchester City. Robertson might bag points in the first of the 3 games at home to Newcastle, but the man owned by almost 35% of FPL managers, including myself, would perhaps be avoiding Robertson for the total of the 3 game weeks if you take all 3 game weeks into account, especially since he'll be facing the likes of Aubameyang, Lacazette, Ozil, Sterling, Sané, Aguero and co. My second player to avoid is many people's cheap striker of the year, Callum Wilson. 6 million and selected by just 148,000 managers at the start of the season. The Cherries frontman now boasts a 6.9 million price tag, almost 2.2 million owners, and is now selected by 36% of teams in the Fantasy Premier League. However, Wilson has just returned following an injury which temporarily halted his wonderful run of form, and with Bournemouth facing 2 away days at Spurs and Manchester United, I feel that the popular frontman will be frustrated over the Christmas fixture period. No doubt Wilson and Bournemouth have worked wonders so far this season, but also with talks of Wilson leaving the club in January and a tough run of fixtures for the Cherries, I don't see a lot of points going Wilson's way over the next 3 game weeks. The next player to avoid is Ederson. Perhaps a strange choice, but I feel like he is a player who is really not worth his value over the last 5 game weeks. Manchester City are an incredible attacking side. However, they have this bad habit of conceding the odd goal, and at 5.8 million, Ederson stands as the joint most expensive goalkeeper in the league, and there are goalkeepers who are around 1 million cheaper who have a better run of fixtures and a better points return recently than Ederson. I would suggest avoiding him or taking him out of your team doing that now. If not now, then during the wildcard time, so you can claw back an extra million to improve your team elsewhere. I'd suggest transferring him out now because you may not want to risk transferring too many outfield players now because of the huge rotation risk, whereas goalkeepers rarely rotate. I would suggest a player like Joe Hart, as he's worth 1.3 million less than Ederson. He's in good form, and Burnley have only 2 really tough fixtures over the next 11 game weeks. The final part of the video looks at 3 players who I think people should take a risk on over the next 3 game weeks. Who are the differential players to make a difference for you this Christmas and New Year? And first up is Jesse Lingard. Selected by just 3% of managers and valued at only 6.7 million, the young Englishman looks set to play under Solskjaer and was very impressive in a more attacking role against Cardiff. And similar to Pogba, United have a lovely 3-set fixture list of Huddersfield and Bournemouth at home before facing Newcastle away in the new year. When you consider how low his ownership percentage is, how low his cost is, and the fixture list, it's tough to look past Lingard, not just for now, but for the rest of the season. My second player to pick is Heung-min Son. Selected by 7.2% of managers, the South Korean leaves after game week 22 for the Asian Cup, but I feel as though Spurs will use Son more over these 3 game weeks because of his future absence. They have him now, so play him now, kind of use him up whilst resting other players, then replace him after game week 22 with a fully fit and rested Lamela or Moura or Sissoko. As previously mentioned, Spurs have a good set of fixtures, but the joint lowest amount of rest days, so I can see Son getting a lot of game time and being used up over the next 3 games due to his imminent departure. My last differential player to take a risk on is Gylfi Sigurdsson. Despite Everton having the joint fewest rest days, the Icelandic magician is a key part of Everton's side, and there really isn't another player for him to be rotated out for that has anywhere near his quality. If Everton were playing a top 5 side away from home, then they may have rested him and gone for a more defensive setup to frustrate the opposition and give him a rest. However, they face Burnley, Brighton and Leicester, and they will need and rely on Sigurdsson's creativity and attacking prowess if they want to push for 3 points in each of those 3 games where they are the favourites. I can see Richarlison being rotated out for a game or 2 with Tosin or Calvert-Lewin being options, but if Everton really do want to push for 9 points there in those 3 games, I can't see them resting their best creative midfielder, who is owned by just 6.2% of FPL managers. So that was my look at game weeks 19, 20 and 21. We'll be back to the usual setup from game week 22, where we'll be looking back over the holiday season at how my predictions panned out, as well as how players and my side got on over Christmas. If you enjoyed the video, maybe leave a like and subscribe if you're new, and let me know in the comments below which player do you think will be the Christmas #1 over game week 19 through to game week 21. Thank you all guys for the increased support over the last few months as well. I will try to improve in the new year and earn your wonderful support. I wish you guys all a luck in FPL and in life, and if I don't make a video beforehand, I hope you all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and as always,